Hey there everyone, this is Joram once again doing the ElvUI setup tutorial. In this episode we're going to go ahead and take care of the action bars, show you how to set these up. Now first of all you want to make sure these are enabled. If you're using Bartender, go ahead and get rid of it, you don't need it anymore. Because ElvUI takes care of everything just like Bartender did. So go ahead and make sure that's enabled. Macro text, what that's going to do is if you're using macros, which let me pull one up here real quick. If you're using this, then what's going to happen is you're going to see the word of the name of the macro printed here. If it's too big, it'll of course cut it off. But if it fits, it'll go ahead and leave it. So what that does is it makes it so it disappears. It's a very simple little feature. I like to leave it off, but it's your call. The keybind text is, these are the keybinds here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I use letters as well. If you turn those off, you will no longer have that added little bonus. So we're going to go ahead and leave those on just because I like to have them. It's nice for me. There's also a nice little thing here, keybind mode. This right here is actually pretty nice. What you can do is, if you click that, you'll get this screen. And then let's say I wanted this one to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now instead of this bar being that, it's this bar, which is just, it's very, very simple. This is bar 5 I'm using right now, so I was going to go ahead and discard because I like them where they were. Because I did. So that's keybind mode. It's very useful. I use this quite a bit. It makes it a lot easier to rebind my action bars. Next up is the font size. That is the name of the keybind toggle. If you have macro text on, that's not going to get any bigger or smaller. It's just the keybind. It's just the keybind text. Next one you can change is the button size. You can make these larger or smaller. These are the universal ones, so whatever you set this at, that's what it's going to be universally. Bring this back down to 30. I set 30. There we go. Button spacing is basically the padding between the buttons. We can go ahead and change that if we want, but I like leaving it at the default 4. Alternate button size is the size of your pet bar, which is over here. So we can go ahead and change these button sizes if we want. We can make them super small or super large. I'm just going to go ahead and leave them right around 30. It's a pretty comfortable level. So these here are the overall settings. It's for all of the action bars. Except for the alt, that one right there is special, but it also will work for your shape-shifting bar, which, if you're Shadow Priest, Druid, Paladin, things like that, that's useful to have to use the shapeshift bar. So first up, we're going to go ahead and play with settings on bar 1, which, if you're wondering which bar is which, just hit toggle anchors, and you can see it's action bar 1, action bar 3, action bar 5, and action bar 4. And you notice there's no action bar 2. We'll add that in just a second. It's defaulted turned off. We'll get that in there. So what you can do is, there's a lot of things you can do. We've got the enable disable, which turns the action bar on or off, which is what happened to action bar 2. We've got the backdrop, which shows if there's the border or not, as well as the spacing showing. It's very nice to have there. Mouse over basically makes it so the frame doesn't show up unless your mouse is over it. That's pretty nice for these guys over here in the pet bar, but for action bar 1, 2, and 3, that's not so nice. Next up is how many buttons are shown. So what will happen is as I remove these, the buttons will actually just disappear until there's just one left. I'll go ahead and leave that at 12. The backdrop I showed, mouse over I showed, buttons. Okay, and then there's buttons per row. Now instead of removing buttons, what will happen is it'll just add another row. And it'll do this until you have 1. That's how you get a tall row. You basically just make a single column. Next up is the height multiplier. This will make it so it gets taller, which a lot of people say, well, what the heck is the use for that? I'm going to show you by leaving this at 3. It's very nice. There's also the width multiplier, which makes it so this gets bigger by that direction, and I'll still forget, if you bring this down, the width multiplier will change. We want to go ahead and leave that at max with this just at 1. Okay, so now we're going to make bar 2 show up. So we're just going to go over here to the drop down, go to bar 2. We're going to enable this without a backdrop. And now you'll notice that bar 2 is above here. We don't want it there. We want it to be right about here. So we just toggle our anchors, yank this on down, sort of aim for the center. And the nice thing is action bar 1 has a little bit of text over it, so I can just do that. And I'm also going to move action bar 3 so it's centered also, just because we're going to use that next. There we go, that's where I want that. So you can see the difference here. Action bar 2, it looks like it's part of action bar 1, where action bar 3 doesn't quite match quite as well as this number 2 does. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave action bar 2 pretty much how it is. We're going to go to number 3, and what we're going to do is it only has 6 buttons, so we're going to expand this, then we're going to change button per row to 12, and that'll just add it in there, but it still has that background, so we're going to take it away. And you know what? There you go. Pretty simple. It's a nice little easy way to set that up. Now bar 4 is over here, but bar 5 is still right here in the center. Now I don't know about you guys, but I kind of like to show my cooldowns like right in front when I'm using certain powers, so I'm going to leave 4 how it is, and in 5 what I'm going to do is, let me get in here, there we go. So it's pretty much set up how I want it, but let me go ahead and give it as many bars as I can, and we'll change this. Now we'll leave it at 6. So basically now what it looks like is, it looks like this. So there's this bar here, and I can go ahead and just add my cooldowns to it, and then when I'm, so when I'm using my arcane shot, I use it down in this bar here, but it'll show up here what power is using. Now in Bartender you could have made this individually larger, but you know what? It's not really that much of a big deal. We can go ahead and remove the backdrop, make it so it's just sort of standing alone there. We can bring that down to 4. There we go. So if I only have 4 powers I want to follow, there they are right there. It's real easy. Okay. Now, oh, there is one other thing I wanted to show you. Let me do this with bar 4. So if I wanted to go ahead and make this wider, you're going to notice that the bar is, pull this in. What's happening here is these are over here with a big space here. Now if I was to change the anchor point here from top right to top left, that's going to move over there. And let me move this on the top here so I can sort of show you something. So let's say you're used to having this power on the bottom. What we're going to do is we're going to do bottom left, and it'll just drop right down there. It's nice if you just want to resort your displays. I do leave it on the top right, and then I'll just bring this back down to 1, just because that's what it's supposed to look like to me. I am that guy. Alright, so we'll lock that back into place. Now the shapeshift bar, I didn't really get into this very much, but I just like to go ahead and leave it at 10. Leave it at the max settings just because when you're using it, it's useful to have the max settings, and that bar is right here for me. But if it's only one bar, it's just going to show up in the center, and it'll get wider and wider and wider from the center, which is a nice little feature. Last up is the pet bar. Pet bar is this guy here. We showed you that a little bit ago. We can change out how many buttons show up. It's exactly the same thing. And then there's also the cooldown text. Go ahead and turn that on real quick. So you're going to notice that this right here is red. It's got 2 minutes left. And you'll also see on the tooltip bar that does show cooldown remaining 2 minutes. It's just a nice little added feature. Now if I was to change this to another color, you're going to notice nothing happens. The reason for that is because it hasn't updated yet. So when this goes from 2 minutes to 1 minute, then you're going to see that change. I'm going to try to go ahead and leave this video running for the next minute. I'm going to do my credits real quick. Big thanks to Tux, Hace, Nightcracker, Omega 1970, and Hydrazine, as well as all the testers and the donors who keep ElvUI running. You will notice now that's blue. That was the color that I changed it to. So if you go to action bars, you'll see that's the blue for minutes now. And you can change that however you like to. You can set the threshold before it goes to the expiring time from seconds. You can bring that all the way up to 20 seconds, or if you set it to -1, it'll never show up. If you set it to 0, it'll show up for the last possible last possible frame of time. I like to leave it right around 5, because that's usually about when most of my powers are needing to redo. Let me set this back to white, because it looked good at white. Just does. But here, the seconds ticking, you can see this going a lot faster. So there, it's a nice little feature. I like having that. And that's it for the action bars. This is Joram for the ElvUI tutorial. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.